Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into something that, well, it might make you rethink your morning vitamins. It's a story that's surprisingly common. Let's talk about Margaret Thompson. She's 71, and for about 8 months she was super diligent, taking 1,200 milligrams of calcium carbonate every single day.
Right, following her doctor's advice, thinking she was doing the absolute best thing for her bones, preventing osteoporosis.
Exactly. But instead of feeling stronger, she lands in the ER. Severe chest pains. She's thinking, this is it, heart attack.
And while it wasn't exactly a heart attack in the classic sense, what they found was pretty serious. That calcium she was taking, it had started building up in her arteries.
Building up? Like how?
Like tiny bits of concrete, essentially. It's
Right.
called arterial calcification. And it's dangerous stuff. It can bump up the risk of heart attack and stroke by, get this, up to 86%.
Wow, 86%. That's huge.
It really is. And Margaret's story, it's not some rare fluke. It actually shines a light on this massive gap between the latest research on calcium supplements and the advice that, frankly, a lot of people, especially older adults, are still getting.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Margaret's experience. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Could the calcium advice we've all heard for years actually be, well, risky? We're going to dive into what researchers call the calcium paradox.
Yes, the paradox being how trying to add more isolated calcium might actually lead to weaker bones for some, and definitely poses risks to the cardiovascular system.
So our mission today is pretty clear. Help you understand the difference. What kind of calcium actually helps your bones versus what kind might, quite literally, harden your arteries. And we're basing this on solid, peer-reviewed research, not just, common knowledge or marketing, because for decades, the message has been hammered home. Calcium. You need lots of it, especially as you get older. Calcium deficiency is the big bad wolf for bone health.
That's been the narrative, absolutely.
But what if? What if that's not the whole story? What if many people over 50 are actually getting too much calcium, or at least too much of the wrong kind? And it's ending up where it shouldn't.
That's exactly what the emerging science suggests. And look, this isn't some wild conspiracy theory. We're talking about hard data now. The whole, $4.2 billion calcium supplement industry.
Huge industry.
Massive. And it seems it's been built on a foundation that's, let's just say, starting to look a bit shaky. Even some official guidelines like that 1,200 milligram recommendation for older adults.
Where did that even come from?
Well, a lot of the studies underpinning those recommendations were funded by, you guessed it, the dairy industry and supplement companies. And crucially, they often looked at calcium totally in isolation.
Without considering how it works with other things.
Exactly. They didn't really account for how calcium behaves differently in a whole food versus a synthetic pill, or how vital other nutrients are. So you end up with this bizarre situation where countries like the US, with super high calcium intake,
We take a lot of calcium.
among the highest. Yet, we also have some of the highest rates of osteoporosis and hip fractures. Meanwhile, you look at populations eating moderate amounts of calcium, mostly from food. They often have stronger bones later in life.
So it begs the question, right? Why isn't all our calcium translating into better bones? It feels like the current strategy might be, well, broken.
Or at least seriously flawed. It suggests the approach isn't just ineffective, it might even be backfiring.
Okay, so our bodies definitely need calcium. Bones, nerves, muscles, all that. But just flooding the system with more, especially the isolated kind, sounds like chaos. Like dropping a ton of bricks on a building site with no plan or workers.
That's a really good analogy. Your bones absolutely need the bricks, the calcium, but they also need the whole construction crew, the coworkers, the cofactors.
Factors like what?
Think vitamin D3. That's crucial just to get the calcium absorbed from your food in the first place. Then, and this one's key, vitamin K2.
K2.
K2 is like the traffic cop. It directs the calcium to your bones and teeth, and importantly, keeps it out of your arteries and soft tissues. Then you've got magnesium, which helps regulate the whole process, and boron for balance. Without that whole team,
The calcium just wanders off.
pretty much, it's like that construction worker showing up with no blueprints, no tools, no supervisor. It ends up causing problems, depositing where it shouldn't.
And you mentioned the type of calcium matters too, the common one. Calcium carbonate.
Yeah, calcium carbonate, that's the one you see most often. And ironically, it's one of the hardest forms for your body to actually absorb.
Why is that?
It needs a lot of stomach acid to dissolve properly. And guess what? As we get older, stomach acid production tends to decrease.
Hey, great. So it gets harder to absorb just when we think we need it most?
Exactly. Studies suggest we might only utilize maybe 25 to 30% of calcium carbonate. The rest, that other 70%, it becomes sort of a burden. It floats around looking for places to land, like artery walls, heart valves, even the brain.
That's unsettling. So it's not just about calcium quantity.
Not at all. It's about the whole picture. Your bones aren't just buckets for calcium. They need that whole symphony of nutrients working together. Just dumping an isolated calcium is like trying to judge a symphony by blasting one trumpet. It's just noise, not harmony.
Okay, so evidence against these high-dose supplements has been building. Was there a particular study or piece of research that really started to, shake things up?
Yeah, there were several, but a really big one was an analysis from the Women's Health Initiative. Huge study, over 24,000 women.
Okay, what did it find?
It found that women taking calcium supplements had a 31% higher risk of heart attack compared to women getting their calcium just from food.
31% higher.
Yeah.
Just in the supplements.
Correct. And then you have researchers like Dr. Ian Reed, a major name in this field. He spent years analyzing data like this and basically concluded, look, for most people, calcium supplements offer very little bone benefit, but they do significantly increase cardiovascular risks. His work was pretty hard to ignore.
So if the data was pointing that way, showing a real risk, why the lag? Why didn't we see medical advice change overnight? It sounds pretty urgent.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's frustrating. Part of it is inertia, I think. Admitting that decades of advice might have been wrong, maybe even harmful. That's a really tough pill for any large medical institution to swallow.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then there's the financial side. Let's be honest, many medical organizations, influential researchers, they've had and sometimes still have financial ties to the supplement industry, the dairy industry.
The ones who benefit from high calcium sales.
Precisely. Remember how we talked about the studies underpinning the 1,200 milligram RDA, often funded by those very groups? So you have this mix of institutional resistance and, frankly, conflicting interests that slowed down the response to the emerging science. It's systemic.
So we've got the arterial calcification risk, which is terrifying. Are there other downsides to this strategy of just taking high-dose calcium? Other ways it could be harming us?
Oh, absolutely. The paradox gets even deeper. For some people, especially if they're low in those crucial cofactors, D3, K2, magnesium, taking extra calcium, can actually speed up bone loss.
Wait, hang on. Speed up bone loss. How does that even work?
It sounds completely backward, I know. But if the body can't use the calcium properly, can't direct it to the bones, it triggers hormonal signals. These hormones try to keep blood calcium levels stable, and sometimes they do that by pulling calcium out of the bones.
So you take calcium to help your bones, but it ends up making them weaker.
In that specific scenario, yes. It creates this vicious cycle. More calcium supplement leads to weaker bones and increases your cardiovascular risk at the same time.
That is just, wow, so counterintuitive. What else? Any other complications?
Well, there's the increased risk of kidney stones. That's a fairly well-known side effect. And chronic constipation is common, too. But maybe more subtly, large doses of isolated calcium can actually interfere with your body's ability to absorb other really important minerals.
Like what?
Things like iron, zinc, magnesium, they kind of compete for absorption pathways. So by overloading with calcium, you might accidentally be making yourself deficient in these other critical nutrients. It creates this cascade of potential problems.
And you mentioned seniors are especially vulnerable.
They really are. We talked about the lower stomach acid making calcium carbonate harder to absorb. So the very people we're targeting with these high-dose recommendations are the ones least likely to absorb it properly and most likely to suffer the consequences of that unabsorbed calcium floating around. It's a real unfortunate irony.
Okay, this is a lot to take in. Hearing all this, the obvious question is, what do we do? How can we support our bones, our hearts the right way without falling into this trap?
Right. And the answer isn't no calcium. Calcium is absolutely vital. We need it. The key is getting it in a form the body recognizes and can actually use, and crucially, getting it with its essential partners.
So, back to food.
Primarily, yes. Prioritize calcium-rich whole foods. Think leafy greens like kale and collards, canned salmon or sardines with the bones, almonds, sesame seeds, maybe some cultured dairy like yogurt or kefir if you tolerate it well.
Why are food sources so much better?
Because the calcium comes naturally packaged with many of its cofactors. Leafy greens give you calcium plus vitamin K. Sardines give you calcium plus vitamin D and omega-3s. Your body sees that whole package and knows exactly what to do with it. It's completely different from getting a blast of isolated synthetic calcium carbonate.
It's about the whole system again, not just the one ingredient. So remind us of those key cofactors we need to make sure we're getting.
Okay, number 1, vitamin D3. Get safe sun exposure if you can, or supplement wisely to get your levels optimal. Number 2, vitamin K2. Fermented foods like natto are great, or look for a good MK7 supplement. Number 3, magnesium. Loads of foods have it. Pumpkin seeds, almonds, spinach, even dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate. Okay, I like that one.
Huh, me too. But the point is, focusing on optimizing these alongside your food-based calcium makes all the difference. Think back to Margaret, our example at the start.
Right. What happened with her?
Her recovery started when she stopped the calcium pills, focused on getting her D3, K2, and magnesium levels up, and really increased her intake of those calcium-rich whole foods. And within just 3 months.
What did the scans show?
Not only had the arterial calcification stopped progressing, but her bone density markers had actually improved. She got stronger bones by stopping the calcium supplement and focusing on the whole picture. Now she's out hiking, feeling great.
That's incredible. A real turnaround.
It really is. And it underscores the main point. Aiming for something like 400 to 600 milligrams of calcium a day, mostly from whole foods, combined with adequate D3, K2, and magnesium, that seems to be far more effective and safer than just popping 1,200 milligrams of calcium carbonate.
So this whole deep dive really shows that getting strong bones and a healthy heart isn't about just adding more of one thing. It's about understanding how complex our bodies are, how everything works together. It's about context.
Absolutely. It's about synergy. And, the medical world is slowly starting to catch up on this, but these shifts take time. Sometimes. A lot of time.
Decades, maybe.
Could be, but your health is happening right now. It's too important to just wait for institutions that might be years, even decades, behind the latest nutritional science. You really have the power to step outside that old advice, take control of how your body uses calcium, and approach your health the way nature intended. Nutrient density, whole foods, the full symphony.
That's a powerful message. So maybe something for all of us to think about.
Yeah.
What other piece of conventional wisdom in your life might be ready for its own deep dive? What truths about your own body are you ready to uncover to really thrive?